Friends, we need to understand what happened in the Paris Peace Conference. After World War I in 1918, they sat in Paris. They sat in where? Paris. Before I continue, I usually remind you our customer Farouk of Uganda's idea, believe that you can. Believe that you do what? You can. At a time, even when the waves are so large, believe that you do what? You can. Yes. Now, we are saying today, as soon as the peace conference began in Paris, there were disagreements where we believe, where the different countries had different aims. But members had to leave out their differences. Among the leading members, we had George Keremenchu from France, Lloyd George of Britain, then Woodrow Wilson, a constitutional lawyer and a professor of political science. By the way, Woodrow brought the 14 points program, where he presented to them to Keremenchu. Keremenchu said, Woodrow Wilson speaks like Jesus Christ of Nazareth. If the Almighty God gave us 10 laws and we turn against them, what about the 14 points of Woodrow? In other words, they were not willing to honor the 14 points of Woodrow Wilson, but at least they picked in a point of forming the League of what? Nation, the 14th point. Now, we need to know the aims of the Paris Peace Conference of 1919. Number one, to establish lasting peace, security, and stability in Europe and the world at large. This was mainly held by Woodrow Wilson of USA. So we are saying that diplomats aimed at establishing peace, security, and stability because World War I had turned against peace. So by this we are saying today that diplomats aimed at establishing lasting what? Peace. They didn't want another war to rise up in this world. Another one, to disarm as much as possible both the vanquished, defeated, and the leading nations. The diplomats aimed at disarming the defeated and the leading nations. They had to remove the military equipment from all these countries because arms race caused World War I. Another one, we are saying to liberate the various races formerly dominated by the vanquished powers. All of the races formerly dominated by the vanquished powers had to be liberated. That's why Poland was given its what? Independence. Changes rising up here. Another one, to redraw the political map of Europe as a means to restore the continental balance of power. You remember Germany at one time had a great influence. You remember the period 1871 to 1890 was called the Bismarck era. But for now, the diplomats aimed at redrawing the political map of Europe. The political map of Europe had to be redrawn again because Germany had changed the map, my friend. You hear this? Germany gave the geographers a job. They had to sit and design a new what? A new map. A new map. Another one, to punish Germany and her allies for causing world war. Germany had to be punished and her allies for causing World War I. I can tell you, Germany had to be punished and her allies. Another one, to reward the leading nations of World War I from the territories of the defeated nations. I can tell you, the leading nations had to be rewarded from the territories of the defeated what? Nations. Like which defeated nation? Like which defeated nation? German. So they had to be rewarded. To institute international cooperation among all powers. The diplomats wanted to promote international cooperation among all powers. I can tell you today, powers had to cooperate with one another because it was lack of international cooperation. That's why a great war emerged in this world in form of World War I, to uplift the principle of nationalism and self-determination by giving independence to small and oppressed nations. We believe by this time they had to uphold the principle of nationalism, love for one's country and self-determination by giving independence to small nations. I can tell you, smaller nations had to be given their what? Their independence. Because at one time, countries like Germany had a great influence. So change is rising up, my friend. Diplomats, after sitting for 6 months at Paris, they came up with the Versailles Peace Treaty of 1919, where it had about 400 articles, which were generally unfair to Germany. So we need to analyze what were the major terms of the Versailles Peace Treaty. Number one, there was the War Guilty Clause, Article 231. By this clause, the Allied powers entirely blamed Germany for causing World War I. You hear this? The Allied powers in the War Guilty Clause blamed only one country for causing World War I. The country was called what? Germany. Of course, we need to go deep and discuss and analyze whether they were fair or unfair. But they said Germany was the cause of World War I, the War Guilty Clause. Another one, the Territorial Adjustment Clause. Let me tell you, by this clause, Germany was forced to lose her territories in Europe. For example, the German province of East Prussia was cut off from the rest of Germany through the creation of a Polish corridor. We believe by this time, Germany was to lose the territories. I can tell you, Germany had influence in Poland, but Poland was given its what? Independence. So I can tell you that diplomats were bringing hard terms on a country called what? German. Another one, the reparation or compensation clause. You hear this? They say the German, you caused the World War I, and the German had to pay $6.6 billion. I can tell you, Germany was told to pay this money for all of the destructions caused as a result of World War I. As a result of World War I, because properties were destroyed, people, around 13 million people died as a result of World War I. So they said Germany had to pay $6.6 billion, my friend, for causing a great war in this world. Another one, we are saying that disarmament clause, when it came to the issue of disarmament, Germany was supposed to be disarmed because the leading powers were saying arms race caused World War I. So Germany was meant to be this what? The military equipments of Germany were supposed to be removed from it. By the way, Germany was supposed to have only 100,000 soldiers. This was intentional because they said Germany caused the World War I. Another one, we are like saying that the colonization clause. We are saying today, when it came to decolonization clause. Germany was to lose its colonies. For example, Tanganyika at one time belonged to a country called what? German. But it was removed from German. I can tell you in the decolonization clause, Germany was supposed to lose its what? Colonies. That's why it lost Tanganyika, it lost Togo. Now we are challenging minds. Were the diplomats fair or unfair on a country called German?
Unfair.